Her 9000's Game Room.
Animaniacs is a platform video game developed by Konami for the Super Nintendo, obviously based on the hit animated series of the same name. There was a Mega Drive Animaniacs game, but it was a totally different game, even though both of them were developed and published by Konami, a company that was certainly very much in the limelight back in the 16-bit days. I never owned this title as a kid, in fact I've only just recently gotten my hands on it. I've played the Mega Drive one before, so I guess in a way that is sort of a template that my mind will compare this one to. Now it's important to say that I have a very, very big soft spot for Animaniacs. I used to watch it when I was younger, and it's just this perfect mix of humour, awesome pop culture references, and just a sprinkle of learning. Songs from the show that listed the various countries in the world or American presidents or other such things were done with such a charm and were just so darn catchy that you were entertained even enough to not realise that they were daring to try and educate you a little bit. But then at other times the show would literally have me in fits of laughter. I loved everything about the show. It was filled with the most amazing characters, so full of life. Surely this would make them perfect characters to bring into the world of gaming. Okay, so what's the game's story? Well, Pinky and the Brain, the laboratory mice, steal an important movie script from Warner Bros. Studios and plan to make the film themselves so that they can become filthy stinking rich and use this cash to do what they try to do, the same thing they try to do every night: take over the world. The CEO of Warner Bros. Recruits Wacko, Yakko and Dot, the Animaniacs, to retrieve the script pages and stop Pinky and the Brain. Each level contains a number of script pages. You don't have to collect all of them, but the ending that you will get if you finish the game depends on if you got enough of these pages or not. The graphics in this game are quite good. They're nice bold characters that look very much like their cartoon versions, and a fair amount of characters from the show pop up in the game. Throw on top of this that there are some very detailed backgrounds and enemies as well. The sound is also pretty decent, the music's very fitting to the game, and the show's theme is used, so there's a plus point for fans. The sound effects are best described as average though, and also kind of underused. I've always liked the saying gameplay is king. What this basically means is that the most important part of a game is the gameplay. A game can have a good story, it can have good graphics, it can have an awesome soundtrack, but all of that stuff is just nice. The real important thing is the gameplay. If a game plays badly, then it doesn't matter how pretty it looks or how great it sounds. If it plays bad, the game's bad. Simple as that. The gameplay here, well, it's not awful, but it is kind of awkward and frustrating. It's one of those games where it's hard in places, not because of any challenge, but because when you're jumping, you're not quite sure if you will land where you think you will. So when you're in a game which at times could feel a little unfair, you'd want a lot of extra lives and such, wouldn't you? Well, here you get 3 lives. Each of the Warners is basically a life. So to die, you have to get Yakko, Wacko and Dot killed. Then if you're lucky, you'll see a continue screen, and when you continue, it will be from the last checkpoint. So the obvious question is, how many continues do you get? Well, that depends. You see, the whole time you're playing the game, there's like a slot machine at the bottom of the screen, which when you collect enough coins, it starts to spin, and you can win continues and stuff. Personally, I find this the most annoying waste of screen space in a game. It doesn't only take up screen room, it draws your attention to it and away from what you're supposed to be doing. Also, if you had a set number of continues, you get a little further into the game each time you play, and as you improve. But here, we are adding some luck to proceedings, so I'm not overly keen on it. I could go on to moan that the passwords are long, but I think if the game was a solid diamond, then no one would realistically give a monkeys about that. Okay, so I guess it's time to say how I feel about the game overall. Well, in honesty, I think this game is a very, very average game. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. The most surprising thing about all of this, for me, is that the game was made by Konami. When it comes to the 16-bit era, you think that Konami on the SNES, and you think about a company which was probably one of the companies with one of the very best track records on the machine. I spent £7 on a loose cart of this game, and in all honesty, if you really want to try this game, I'd advise that you don't spend any more than I did, if you want to avoid disappointment. In fact, if you own both systems, I'd advise spending your cash on a copy of the Mega Drive game instead, as I feel that one just represents the source material much better by not sucking. Okay, that's Kerr 9000 signing off saying keep on gaming.